Zayin, Mishnah Hey. This last Mishnah of the 7th Perek discusses the big day Kahuna, and specifically the big day Kohen Gadol. So says the Mishnah, Kohen Gadol mishamish b'shmoina kelim v'hahedjet ba'arba'a. The Kohen Gadol serves wearing 8 clothes. V'hahedjet, and the regular Kohen serves wearing 4 items of clothing. And the Mishnah is going to enumerate each of them. Now, with regard to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he would be wearing, of course, the 8 his normal clothing, the 8 big day kahuna, which we're going to list soon. However, when he wears the big day lovon, the big day lovon only involves 4 items of clothing. But when he wears his big day zahov, that's going to be when he wears his 8 items of clothing. Okay, so says the Mishnah. What are the 4 items for the Kohen Hedget? B'kutones, u'michnasayim, u'mitznefes, va'avnet. In other words, in the 8, the regular, the basic 4 items of clothing are the katones, which is the tunic, which is made out of these checkered materials. The Pasuk says in Shmos Kafches, "V'livnei Aharon ta'aseh katones, v'osis olehem avnetim, u'migbois, v'osa lehem michnasei vad." So these are the 4 basic items. The katones, which is the long tunic with the narrow sleeves, and it goes down all the way to the heels almost of the Kohen. Then he wears the avnet. The avnet is a very, very long belt, 3 etzba'os wide, and very, very long. It's 32 amos wide, which will sort of wound around his waist probably more than many times. The Torah calls the hat of the Kohen the migbois, but the Mishnah term is the mitznefes, and the Chazal say that Lashon Chachomim lechutz. The Chachomim have a different Lashon, a different expression for something than the Torah. So it's slightly different. We call it the mitznefes, and the Torah calls it the migbois. And lastly is the michnasei vad, which means the trousers that he wears underneath the katones, which go down from his waist down to his knees. Continues the Mishnah. Moisif alav Kohen Gadol choshen ve'ephod u'me'il v'tzitz. In addition to these 4, the Kohen Gadol would also wear the choshen, which is the breastplate, ve'ephod, which is the sort of the apron, u'me'il, which is the cloak, or a long cloak made out of blue wool, which goes over everything. V'tzitz, and he wears the special tzit, which says Kodesh Lashem on top of it. Okay. Now, we haven't really got time to go through each of these in detail, but let's just briefly mention the choshen, because the choshen, as we're going to discuss shortly, is going to be very strongly connected with the Urim V'Tumim. Indeed, according to some, the Rambam seems to say that the choshen is actually the Urim V'Tumim. That's why it uses the plural. It's the stones on the actual choshen. What is the choshen? It's the breastplate made out of with 12 stones on them. And on the stones, you've got certain engravements. What have you got engraved on the stones? Well, you've got the names of the Shvatim. So on each of the 12 stones, you've got Reuven on one, then Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc., etc. The difficulty is that, however you understand the Urim V'Tumim, according to Rashi, it's merely a piece of paper which was slipped in behind the choshen, behind the breastplate, or according to others, it was actually the choshen. Either way, the Urim V'Tumim, as we know, when it was used, as described in this Mishnah, the letters would flash up. And the trouble is, the Gemara notes that the letters Tzadi and Tes were not actually not included, not contained in the names of the Shvatim. The Yerushalmi adds that the letters Ches and Kuf are also not included. So what about these 4 letters, Tzadi, Tes, Ches and Kuf? So the Gemara explains it wasn't just the names of the Shvatim, but in addition to the names of the Shvatim, you also had the words Shiftei Yeshurun, and it would work as follows. On the first stone, you would have Reuven. Sorry, it would be Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov Shiftei Yeshurun. So on the first stone, you would have Reuven and the Aleph from Avraham. The next stone, you would have Shimon, and then the base from Avraham. Then the next stone would be Levi, and you would then have the Reish, Hey, and Mem from Avraham. In other words, there would be 6 letters on each stone. So on the fourth stone, Yehuda, which has 5 letters, you would have the Yud from Yitzchak. Yisachar, Yud, Sin, Chof, Reish, is again 5 letters. You'd have the Tzadi. Zvulun, you'd have the Ches. And then Don, which is only 2 letters, you've got 4 available. You'd have Kuf from the last letter of Yitzchak, and then you'd have Yud, Ayin, and Kuf, the first 3 letters of Yaakov. And then Naphtali, which is 5 letters, you'd have the letter Base, the final letter of Yaakov's name. God, you would have the word Shiftei next to it on the stone. And then in Osher, Yosef, and Binyamin, Osher is 3 letters, you'd have Yud, Shin, and Reish after it from Yeshurun. And after Yosef, you've had Vav and Nun. And then you'd have Binyamin on its own, which is 6 letters. So in other words, you'd have all the names of the Shvatim plus broken up, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Shiftei Yeshurun. And that way, you've of course got the letters Ches, Tes, Kuf, and Sadi as well. Okay, so that is the Urim V'Tumim. Now, it continues the Mishnah. Be'elu nish'olin be'Urim V'Tumim. When the Kohen Gadol wears these Shmona Begadim, he can be asked, they consult the Kohen Gadol using the Urim V'Tumim. Ve'elu nish'olin, and the following, they're not consulted el lemelech, unless the person consulting the Kohen Gadol is a king, ula based in, or is a member of the Sanhedrin, of the big Sanhedrin of 71, ula misha hatzibur tzorich bo, or someone who the public needs. Now the Gemara says that that's a reference to the Melech, to the Kohen Moshiach, someone who's going out at battle time to speak to the people. But the Rambam says actually it's anyone who has a public need, a need for the Klal Yisrael, is able to consult the Urim V'Tumim. The procedure for consulting the Urim V'Tumim is quite a strange one. The person consulting the Kohen Gadol would actually stand behind the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol would be facing the Aron HaKodesh in that direction, and it's machlokas exactly whether he stands behind him. There are some days which means he looks at him, but the standard way of learning is that he stands behind him. And the Kohen Gadol he says it not in too loud a voice, and he shouldn't say it, he should just think the question, but he asks the question in a low voice, in a soft voice, and then the Kohen Gadol is sort of in a trance, like a Ruach HaKodesh type trance, and then the letters sort of light up on his breastplate, and the Kohen Gadol, you've got to sort of put together the letters and try and decipher the message. Of course, the famous Chazal with Eli and the letters of Kasara, of Chof, Sin, Reish, and Hey came up, that when Chana came in to Eli, the words, those 4 letters flashed up. And of course there's room for error there. Indeed, Eli, instead of reading it Kasara, he read it as Shikoira, that she is drunk. But really what the message was, either Kasara or Kasheira. So one has to try and put the letters together to get the correct response from the Urim V'Tumim. But either way, those are the 4 clothes that every Kohen wears, and the additional 4 clothes that the Kohen Gadol would wear. And that is the end of Mishnah Hey and the end of Perek Zayin.